Welcome, good evening. Come on in. I'm your host, Real Rashad. This is the replay, and we're just jumping on here, just trying to make your day real quick. We got some things we're going to talk about because some things transpired earlier today, as well as on yesterday and early up in the week that we're going to talk about. Again, I bring my guys to the stage. Y'all know them already. I got my man D.A. Daryl Alexander, Ashley Jackson from Nebraska, Mr. Tim Jackson, joining me this evening. So we're gonna go live real quick, man. Talk about what we gotta talk about, man. 'Cause a lot of things transpired. Like definitely, I know I'm a man, DA. We gotta talk about the NBA 65 rule, amongst other things. Before we do any of that, I need you all to go ahead and hit that subscribe, like, and share button. Now, I really appreciate it. Y'all really appreciate it. So, guys, let's first of all, I want to talk about something. The NBA segment of the show. I want to talk about. I want to talk about. Hold on, just a second. Give me just a second. I want to talk about Cowboys. We're gonna talk about it, and I gotta put it up there. Really, let me see if I can put this up there, man, because Dan Quinn accepting the Washington Commanders job. I'm not really sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a good thing for us, the Cowboys, but I don't know if it's a good thing for Washington. One of the things that they talked about was the fact that he's won on as a defensive coordinator when he was Seattle Super Bowl, and he's won as a head coach with Atlanta, but he lost the Super Bowl, and that really wasn't on Dan Quinn. It was more on Kyle Shanahan at the time because he was the offensive coordinator, if we all recall, right? But he could have vetoed Kyle Shanahan when they began to try to make Matt Ryan the hero, as opposed to start running the football like they did to kill some of the clock. That's how New England got back in that game. Because if we recall what happened, man, Atlanta had jumped out, and man, we thought they was going to be winning, to be honest with you, but it didn't happen. So he left the Dallas Cowboys recently. I think it was today. It's today, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. We're going to talk about it, though. So I got a couple things I'll say in reference it because I got some things. As a matter of fact, shout out, man. This is African American History Month. So we're going to be talking about, we're going to segue into that in just a second. But this particular hiring of Dan Quinn to Washington is why I'm going to bring something up in just a minute. But DA, I'm gonna come to you first and get your take on the hiring of Dan Quinn. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, him leaving Dallas going over to Washington?
Personally, I think I don't think it's a good thing for the Cowboys, and I say that because of this. Most of us look at the last game, and say, man, he did a horrible job, coordinating the defense. But I think I think people forget that he probably did the best with the least amount of talent.
Don't say that. Don't you say that word. You finna say with the least amount of talent. Come on, man.
I think he didn't have think about it, man. You didn't really have the pieces after you lost Diggs and after you lost Van Der Esch. They didn't do a good enough job of. I think they just thought that they could just stay pat with what they had, and they couldn't. Like removing Michael's a good pass rusher, but I think they would have done better getting a decent pass rusher. Let Michael stay in his linebacker position and bring in another good linebacker to help that defense out because you really didn't have the pieces that you needed, man. And I think Dan Quinn did his best he could do with what he had. And I guarantee you, if you would just corner him or one day on his deathbed, ask him about that Cowboy situation, I guarantee you he'd say, man, I just didn't have the pieces and they wouldn't give me what I needed. And what we did the best with what we had. So I don't think it's bad for Dallas. And another reason I think that is because Al Harris is going right with him. And the what's the other coach name, Tim? The defensive line coach, what's his name? He's probably going.
You talking about the
Cowboys?
one that really was the assistant
Joe Witt.
defense coordinator. Littleton, what's his name?
No, Joe Witt.
Joe Witt, yeah.
Joe Witt and
He's
Al
African American as well.
Yeah.
So I think you're gonna lose Harris because they're not gonna promote him, and you're gonna lose probably Joe Witt unless they promote him to defensive coordinator. You're gonna lose both of those, and you know how vital Harris was to the team.
Well, that's perfect segue for me because you said Joe Witt. Joe Witt is actually his dream job was be the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. That was his dream job. So he has the opportunity now. Will they do it? Will they pull the trigger? This may be the deal because Joe Witt is known to be very astute. You know, I know I was trumpeting about Al Harris as well, but I kind of forgot about Joe Witt. And Joe Witt is actually they've been saying he's pretty smart. He's a pretty smart guy, and that he's really Dan Quinn's assistant, head defensive coordinator over there. So a lot of people on the inside feel that Joe Witt is going to be the one if they don't hire Washington's old coach back with them. So if they don't hire him, then Joe Witt's probably going to be it. So to me, it's going to be between those two candidates. And I'll say this about Dan Quinn. He showed one game where he actually pulled Parsons back and made him a linebacker and had him on certain downs move back to defensive end, right? And the other defensive ends are a little bit better run against run than he is. So I thought that was a very astute way of playing the game. I thought he was definitely going to do that in this game, right? But sometimes coaches get so big and start feeling themselves that actually they say, okay, we can do something else. And then when we get to this game, I'll go back to that, right? But you got to win each week. You can't be waiting until the next week. I don't know if he has that ego or not, if that's what he was doing. But to me, at that last minute to change into a more zone, and they haven't been playing zone all season, to me is really arrogant. You don't practice something because guys getting caught in what they can do. They're forgetting that the players have to play it. They got to be able to make adjustments, and they got to be able to practice it so it becomes second nature. And they got to see different looks. See, they weren't used to what they was doing for the motion. It changed them up, and they didn't know what to do on that because they hadn't practiced it, and they hadn't went through it with the coach, and it wasn't second nature. So they had busts in the secondary because of that. To me, coaching, and you've been coaching that many years, you got to know that the players may have some difficulty with some things, and you got to go through all those things in your head, man. Especially if you're going to switch up in the playoffs from what you've been doing best and try something new because you know it's good against the run. Yeah, I said in that show, I said, hey, he was trying to get himself out of Dallas. That's what I said that show. And he still makes me feel that way, that he was trying to get himself out of Dallas. And he really didn't care about that because I said he was pretty arrogant himself to actually try to do that much zone in that game. And he actually had a hard time against the run. I'll say this about his linebacker core. That's why I was talking about pulling Parsons back. He had did it before, and they were successful against the run in that game. They did it. He had some tools he could have used. It was up to him how he wanted to use them, though.
Before we go to Jabril, you remember me telling y'all when the Niners were playing that the coach just refused to put pressure on Goff? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's like, man, this dude is killing you sitting back there in that pocket, that clean pocket. Why don't you blitz? Like, is your ego that big where you can't say my front four not really getting to him? I gotta send pressure. He just never sent pressure, and Detroit just lit us up the whole game. So I get what you're saying because I see it, especially when my team does it because I focus on it. But I get it.
Yeah. Some coaches that way, man. They'll get in and they'll forget that they got actually players on the field, and the players have different situations too. Sometimes guys are injured, so you don't want to put them in certain situations. Coaches don't see it. They just keep playing. They just keep making their calls.
Well, I got my guy, man, that's joining, man. He chatting out, man. My man David, man, I'm over in Cedar Hill, man. He said that you know, to watch the Commanders, man, they need a miracle. Yeah, he said they need a miracle over there, man.
What's up, Dave?
I mean, it was said, I was listening to one of the shows, it was said that, and Daryl almost alluded to it when he was talking about the talent level. Dallas not having the front four, but Washington having the front four, and maybe Dan Quinn will be able to work with that a little bit better. Perhaps. But I think in the long run, he's not going to be successful over there either. He's not going to be successful over there. I just don't see it happening. I think that was more of a, I don't know what, you know, Magic Johnson, if he's making, you know, I don't know if it's just administration thing, or is he actually having some real input like he did with the Dodgers? Because to have this hiring of Dan Quinn, I don't know. I was there any more better candidates out there? Perhaps not. But at the same time, I don't know what happened with Bill Belichick. Maybe he just didn't want, you know, the coach to watch the Commanders. Who knows? But I'm not threatened by Dan Quinn, and you know, because what I saw towards the end, to me was a lot of disloyalty in that last game. And what do I mean by disloyalty in the last game? Well, it's like Michael Parsons on his podcast show. He was talking about the very thing. They were just out schemed, and he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. They was out schemed, and anybody can see it wasn't a situation of Dallas perhaps not being really ready to play the game, but once they got hit in the mouth and they was out schemed, you get confused. It looks crazy. Like, what are we doing out here? And that's Dan Quinn. That falls directly on Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator. And if you can't not make those adjustments then, or at least put a better game plan together, I just don't see it, because the same thing I saw in Atlanta with Dan Quinn towards the end of the Dallas Cowboys, I saw it as well. So I just don't think I think he'll have some success, but long term it's gonna wind up being just like it was when he was with Atlanta. And if he don't have, I don't know what maybe he go get Kellen Moore. I don't know. Maybe he keeps Eric Bieniemy. I hope that he would, but if he don't get the offensive coordinator the way he had with Kyle Shanahan, I don't think he's gonna be successful, guys. I really don't.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Go ahead.
Kellen Moore is at Philly.
Yep, he already went to Philly.
Oh, he did. That's right, he did. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, he did. He signed Philly.
But it really does depend on his offensive coordinator. That's going to be really important who he hires as offensive coordinator. You know, we talked about defense coordinator, but the defense coordinator can be a figurehead because, you know, he can run the defense, or he can help him game plan the defense and all that kind of stuff. So he can pull out any of his proteges and be his defensive coordinator, because you can actually, because of your position, and your understanding of it, he can actually coordinate without actually coordinating. You know what I'm saying? So that's not a big deal to me who he gets as a coordinator. It's more important because he's going to get somebody he feels good about. They can run what he wants, right? So to me, it's more about what he gets as offensive coordinator, and then what they do for his drafting and who they get, what they do going forward, what they add to their team. You know, because they got some talent. They've been drafting low for a while. So they got talent on the team, even though they got rid of quite a bit of it.
Yeah,
because the salaries were coming up. They didn't want to have to pay them. So they got rid of some guys and let them go, even though they was prime players, because they said, okay, we can get some new guys, but we still low. So it just depends. I think they're still a couple years out. You know, you can make it up with the right quarterback, of course. Right quarterback, you can be in the playoffs. Simple. But who is that?
Man, David, he's still chatting with us, man. He said as far as on these coordinators, he said, so now Washington have their former defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator in their division. Better make some real scheme changes this offseason. Yeah. And I think you probably referencing Dallas as far as making those changes. A lot of times they do. They make those necessary adjustments, because when you go up against a defense in practice and tour days, stuff like that, you pretty much got a good idea of what they're trying to run. Now, when you game planning it, that's a different thing, because you're seeing different formations that you may call against something different against this formation a lot of time, because when they in the camps and stuff like that, it's kind of vanilla. It's really vanilla. But when they scrimmage, they only go so many, probably maybe 10, 15 plays that are scripted. There's really a base defense. So I think they, again, they'll make the necessary adjustments. But I just, again, man, it don't. Dan Quinn just don't move the meter with me. He just don't move the meter with me. And again, perhaps a lot of it wasn't his fault because now you heard, Jerry Jones talking about he's all in. Now, what exactly what does that mean that you all in? Because I thought you was all in several years ago when you kept talking about how you're getting up there in age and how you were just, you would basically if you could buy a Super Bowl, you would. You using all these kind of things, but now you all in. I'm saying, man, make up your mind. I mean, because at the trade deadline, they could have went and got Derrick Henry. And I thought that was going to be because you lose Zeke, so you really miss Zeke a little bit more than what you thought, as at least in those short yardage situations in the red zone and so forth. But Pollard is not a every down back, and I don't know what they're going to really do with Tony Pollard in the offseason. That's yet to remain to be seen. But if you all in, man, I think check the tires, kick the tires around on Derrick Henry. But if he still got some juice left in him, you got to bring a back like that in, man, because he slows everything down. He gets you in those short first down situations and make them very more manageable, as opposed to being these long situations where now you got to pass the ball 10, 11, 12, 15 yards down the field. So I hope Jerry is true to his word, But honestly, man, I can't fall into. I said I'm not gonna do it. I promised myself I'm not gonna do it. I'm not falling into that trap. You can take me through a whole regular season again. I'm gonna have the same thing. Show me when you get to the playoff. That's all I want. I'm quite Cowboy Nation probably feel the same way. Show us when you get to the playoff. That's all we ask. That's all we ask, Tim.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than you. I actually don't get caught up what they do in the playoffs. I just watch because I'm observing. So for me, I just enjoy the whole thing. If they have a good season and they playing pretty well, that's been fun because we actually, I'm listening to people both sides, the rhetoric, left and right, whether they like them, dislike them, all that. That's fun to me. That's what sports is all about. It's about all the contextual of the whole situation, right? And there's a great context. Will Cowboys ever overcome what they've been doing in the playoff? Will Dak ever be better than 1-4, right? So that's the context. What we gonna do in the playoffs? So I do feel what you're saying because it does come to the bottom line for them right now because they got enough talent on the team. They're not going backwards. They got to go all in. And the other thing about this, I think he's making references to his son, Stephen Jones. Stephen is a conservative one. When Jerry said, "Hey, I'm going in," he said, "Screw Stephen." That's what he's saying. See, Stephen's the one be holding him back. Be pulling that rings on him, right? Yeah. He pulling the rings on, telling him, "Hey, no." And Jerry like, "No, I'm going now. I'm going." Yeah. So let's see if he really goes, or Stephen got a little tug on him a little bit. That's what I want to see this offseason.
Yeah, that's a good point because I think, and I kind of go back to Johnny Manziel when because Jerry was really high on Johnny Manziel when he was coming out of A&M, and there were some things that came out where Steven stepped in, was like, hey Jerry, we can't go for Manziel. We need that. Didn't wind up drafting Zach Martin or something. I guess.
Yep, they did. It was Zach Martin.
But you're right though, Tim. I think it has a little bit to do with it because he's been conservative, and but again, it's all talk right now until you show us. See, we're tired of the talk and we want to show because again, I've been saying when they drafted they did take Van Der Esch, but I was thinking like, okay, you see Tyron Smith. Everybody knows that yes, when he's healthy, he's one of the best tackles in the game. But we talk about availability, right? I'm saying, how long do you continue to go through that process, paying all the money that you paying him, right? I just rather go ahead and get a young tackle, man, and then you're gonna be able to, at some point, if they'd have moved some of that money off the books by now, if they'd have went on and drafted a young left tackle. I mean, but they wanted to stay with Tyron Smith, and I get it, man. But taking a page out of Jimmy Johnson, it was always about, hey, what have you done for me lately with Jimmy Johnson? Like.
So you want to tackle? I'm sorry.
A little bit of room, but he ain't finna sit there and be messing with you all day long, and you ain't, lining up on Sundays, man, and trying to help him win. But you say what, Tim?
Hey, you want to tackle in the first round or second round? Because they, you got to get lucky when it's not in the first round and it's not in the first early picks, and even in that, they're not always there. So if you go look back over the years, this past few years, they was looking at tackles, but the guys they wanted kept going. So, they've been trying to get a tackle. They just hadn't been successful. I like the way they draft when they're trying to draft. Everybody thought real good of Mozzie Smith. They thought he was going to be okay. Right now, he got a little light in the butt for some reason. He lighter than what he was when he came in, and he needs to pick that up and get some grown man strength, though. He may be better in about his third year, which is going to be very pivotal because that's the year they're actually going to be getting rid of him. Hopefully, he comes next year. I think it's going to be his third year. I think he got lost. All the NFL was so fast for him that he got lost in the trenches and didn't know how to make a play because he didn't even know. He was trying to figure out how to do his job. So he had a hard time figuring it out mentally. I think that's the problem with Mozzie Smith. People forget that this is also a mental game. You got to know your job, and then you got to figure out when to penetrate and when to go off the regular schedule program. You know what I'm saying? So you watch down, you hold the block, boom. You got to know when to cut through and say, boom, I know the play. I know what they're going to run, and I'm gonna make a dynamic play. Mozzie's not there. And hopefully he's there next year, but he may not be there for another year or so because of how smart he is. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on. Yeah, I mean, because you never know, whatever defensive coordinator you decide to bring in, and what scheme. Furthermore, what they're running, just as long as it's not that dang on 3-4. Dallas ain't never been. When Bill Parcells tried to run that 3-4 when he came, man, that was not for Dallas. I mean, maybe somebody else like the Steelers or what have you, but not for Dallas. Dallas is a 4-3 team, and they talked about Mike Zimmerman and all this other stuff. But here's what I'm gonna segue to on that, since we're talking about that, right? And I was gonna put these pictures up. I had some African American coaches, right? I had the question that I was asking, and the question was simply this: is the Cowboys a racist team, racist organization, or are they non-EOE, equal opportunity employer? Now, the reason why I'm asking this question is simply because it is. Well, you on the surface say no, they. But if we start going back the whole history of the Dallas Cowboys, and my dad told me as a little boy growing up, he said he left the Dallas Cowboys because they was racist, and he was real good friends with Dwayne Thomas back then. And Dwayne Thomas, a lot of people don't know, had embraced the Nation of Islam at the time, so they saw him as being militant and stuff. Even when they traded went to the San Diego Chargers at that time, but. And not just my dad, it was some other people used to say that, Cowboys too, ex-Cowboy players. Now you move into the 90s when Emmitt Smith wanted his money and he missed those first 2 games. It was a big blowback behind that. But then when Troy contract came up, it was no questions there. He got his money right off the bat. Now we move forward again. And this was an issue. If you Google it, maybe it'll come up. Maybe just Google it because players was raising this issue. Now, when I look back over the whole regime of the organization, I raised this question simply because I'm saying you've never had an African-American head coach. You've never had an African-American offensive coordinator. And I shared with y'all a few weeks ago, I said the only African-American defensive coordinator they ever had lasted only 6 games under Wade Phillips, Brian Stewart. So now I'm listening to 105.3. They talk about Zimmerman. They talk about Bill Belichick. They talk about a plethora of other coaches coming in.
Vrabel.
Call the station because I'm saying to myself, oh, wait a minute. It's like this is automatic that y'all got to go hire a white guy to be the defensive. We ain't even talking about the head coach, right? I'm not even getting to that. I'm simply talking about the defensive coordinating position. When you had individuals like Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilkes, African American Tony Dungy before he was elevated to Leslie Frazier, defensive coordinators. The Cowboys, they never had a defensive coordinator that lasted multiple years on the offensive side of the ball, neither the defense. I want to know what is the problem. And it ain't no political answer on this other than the fact that the question that's going across the screen, is the Cowboys racist? Is there an underneath hidden line? Because we all saw the picture of Jerry Jones now at age 14 over there in Arkansas, looking at the black kid. So they try to downplay it, but I'm not into that. I trust these right here. This right here, these two, I trust what I see. and we're in 2024, and a lot of time has passed by, and you have not had a defensive coordinator, neither an offensive coordinator. You interviewed one person under the Rooney Rule, and that was Sherm Lewis. One time back in the 90s. Come on, man. Come on, man. And 105.3. Again, I wanted to call a radio station today. I really did. Because I'm listening, not Broadus them in the afternoon, but my guy them in the morning. I can't think of the name right now, little fat joker. Say, man, I've been listening to y'all the last hour, man. And all the defensive coordinator y'all keep talking about is European. White. Listen, if you qualify for the job, that's not my issue if you qualify. But dang on it, Aaron Glenn started out as a defensive back coach for the Cleveland Browns. He left the Cleveland Browns, went to the New Orleans Saints, coached there, then got the defensive coordinator job with the Detroit Lions. And he did a masterful job this year. Anybody watch the Detroit Lions, how they played on the defense side of the ball, he did a wonderful job. But then you go, now he applied for the San Diego job, but then you go give the Ravens defensive coordinator Seattle Seahawks job. You see what I'm saying? And then you got, what is it, 55 or 58% of the NFL is by African American. Something got to be done, but it ain't just the Rooney Rule. You can't even get, and don't tell me it don't really matter, because it does, because an offensive coordinator job or a defensive coordinating job gets paid. They salaries are elevated. They even get the title of assistant head coaches. They salary elevates. So come on, man. I'm sick of it, man. I'm just sick of that. But I'm gonna come to you at first on that, D, and you tell me what you think about it.
Man, when you first started out, my reaction was that way because that's the exact same thing my daddy told me when I was a Cowboy fan. When I was a little boy, I was a Cowboy fan. And I remember when they were about to play the Denver Broncos, and he used to always tease me about the Cowboys. Oh, them old sorry Cowboys, oh sorry Cowboy. And the first thing he said when I was of age to understand, he said, Cowboys are one of the most racist organizations in football. And I was like, what? I didn't really know what that meant, but he was just like, he used to say, Tom Landers and them, he called him Tom Landers. Tom Landers and them so racist, they ain't never hire nobody black. He used to say that all the time, man. And when Jabril just said that, I was like, wow. What would make his daddy tell him that? And my daddy told me the exact same thing.
Yeah, man.
When I was a Cowboy fan, he said, I hate the Cowboys. He said, I would never pull for them. He said, because they prejudice. And that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, that's exactly what my dad used to tell me when I was young, man. Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, I think, I noticed it. And now when I say this, people always say, well, all of them are racist. Possible. You can be a racist and have a African-American coordinator. You can. That's two things can be true. But I just never even saw him. When that Kaepernick situation came out, it's like, how can you tell in the new millennium, the new wave of consciousness, how can you just come out and say, you gotta stand for, man, you can't, this ain't in my contract that I gotta stand for a national anthem. Like, y'all threw this in later. It ain't, the cameraman is over there squatting and kneeling. The people selling concession stands still slinging hot dogs and burgers. How can you tell me as a grown man that I can't kneel in protest, not knowing I'm not disrespecting a flag, but I can't? That's what America's all about. Being to have the freedom to speak or to protest silently, peacefully. Once that dude was so defiant with that toe on the line, and when that guy kneeled, that Poe guy kneeled, and he was gone the next week, I was just like, this dude is he's liberal. He's liberal with the money. He gonna pay Dion. He's gonna pay whoever. But he still got it. It's back there, man. It's like he's funny. I love to hear him talk. He loves to hear himself talk. He's entertaining. But it's in there. I think it's in that brain, and it ain't going nowhere. And it's deep down, and they can disguise it however they want. And I think Steven is worse than Jerry, to be honest. I think Steven Jones is over.
Let me ask you this, because see when you talk about, they love to use the moniker of America's team. Now, when you look at the NBA, and you look at the Boston Celtics for example, them putting Bill Russell as a head coach. He was a player coach, you know, at one time.
That's
Then you
huge.
get Casey Jones, the individuals like that, right? If you wearing the name America's team, then you should set the standard.
Yeah.
Not the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin, because they're loyal. The Rooneys, they're loyal. It's called the Rooney Rule for a reason, because they've only had what they had: Chuck Norris, Coward,
and
and
Tomlin.
and Mike Tomlin. So you can see the law. So I'm saying, and they fair as an organization across the board, because people don't remember. You think about Terry Bradshaw, but remember Joe Gillen played as an African American quarterback, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So my point is, you say that you are America's team, then act like it. You set the standard. Because I cannot believe, for the sake of me, man, nobody has brought this up. That no one has actually said, we're not even talking about the head coaching part. I mean, what qualifies? What are the steps? What are the, because it's like, you know, Jerry, I think he made some comments a while, you know, years ago about the Rooney Rule when it was first implemented, and they was giving this little old this window dressing as though everybody was going through the process and looking at it. It's just crazy to me, man. We've gotten this far, come this far, and they were the moniker again, the America's team, but then you never hired an African American head coach. And again, if you want to say okay with that, you gave Dave Campo a chance. Are you kidding me, bro? Dave Campo,
Wade Phillips.
When you probably could have went and got Tony Dungy before he left, when he left the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and went to the Colts. Why come you didn't go get Tony Dungy? You gave it to Dave Campo, and Dave Campo wasn't nothing but a defensive back. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, the kind of foolishness, man, and the narrative that, you know, needs to change. Because again, I'm listening to the radio station, man, and they just pumping these names out like wait a minute, have y'all forgotten, man? Have y'all got amnesia? Have y'all forgotten that it's supposed to be a process of equal opportunity of employment? So something needs to be said about this. And if I get a chance, I am going to call a radio station. But go ahead, Tim.
Well, let me clarify a couple of things. One, the reason why he can put toe on the line is because of contracts. And so they have a what's called a contract for if you actually do a behavior that's actually contrarian to actually the success of the NFL in a whole, which is what they'll use, then boom, they can actually do some things with your contract, null and void, all kind of other stuff they can do and penalize you. So they have those little things in the contract. They keep those things there so actually they can correct behavior if it actually causes them problems. Now, what they make the case is that there was a lot of Americans, okay, you know what type of Americans I'm talking about, who were actually going to get upset when somebody did something, which they did, and that's how the whole turmoil came, and it was detrimental to the NFL brand and actually caused them, make them lose money. So this is what they would use in saying something like that. So that's why he stayed in that area. Another thing, you can be, and this is what people don't understand, is that you can be racist and not be hateful. See, people think you have to be hateful in order to be racist.
Right.
That's not the case. You don't have to be. And matter of fact, you can also be latent, meaning that you don't observe or do anything to harm anyone, right? And you can be racist, meaning that your behaviors are, hey, they over there, I'm over here, right? Or I hire them, they work for me, but they're not going to be in my executive branch. They're not going to be a part of management. Or they're not, and these companies like that all over the nation that way. So we just talking about with the NFL, but we're talking about all over the nation where, hey, they're cool, or they don't want to be partners with you. They're hiring management, but they don't want to be no partners with you. They're going to be no business partner with you, right? But they will have you work for them. They will contract you, right? And so we have this all over the nation. And the Cowboys, like you guys both have said, have failed to hire legitimately any coordinator. Because I won't even call that hire a coordinator. That was just a fill-in. That's interim, right? So they have legitimately not hired anyone, hadn't really interviewed for it on a strong capacity where they felt like that was going to be their guy. They have opportunity right now because Joe Witt, if he don't go, dream job is to be here. He wants to be here. And actually, they were talking about him highly. Stephen Jones and a few others was talking about him highly, how smart he was, right? And how cute he is, right? In his mind. So they said some good things about him. And we kind of have a feeling about Al Harris that he got those kind of goods too. And McCarthy is his coach. So we're talking about somebody has the opportunity to do so. But I will say, overall, you already know there's been a glass ceiling all over this whole nation. You talking about America's team? No, it's not a representative of all Americans. So you are right in that capacity. No, we don't represent all Americans in this situation. We represent a brand of American, what they ideally would like, but not all American what we ideally would like. And so I can understand everybody having those problems from childhood. I was just wondering when we were going to first have a black quarterback that really, really played. You know, that was one thing. It finally happened, and actually somebody got behind Dak. So a lot of people, paraded behind Dak because of that situation too. Oh, we know we had the Carter earlier, but we didn't think that much of Carter anyway. We knew he was temporary, and we knew he wasn't that good. He had Wisconsin, he wasn't that sharp, right. And then he started making mistakes outside the game. So he's not representing what we needed to as far as that goes. But when we got Dak, we got somebody who represents everything right. We want him to win, but he does everything in the way you want somebody to represent you. He's doing that. He does everything right for us. How he conducts himself, how he lives, his positive attitude, how he lifts up other people, how he leads in that capacity. Everything is right there. He needs to do it on the field. And then Jerry Jones and the whole executive branch need to hire one of them coordinators. One of them players that we think this should be one of their coordinators. That's what I think.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, because Quincy Carter was, that was when they was, because Michael Vick brought about a lot of that as far as them, transition to the mobile quarterback. That wasn't even about being a pocket passer. They was kind of, moving away from that a little bit. That's one of the reasons why Jerry Jones them took a chance on Quincy Carter at the time. But sticking with the subject at hand in terms of them hiring, these coordinators, man. See, they get these carrots. This is like a carousel. They get these coaching trees. Rutherford was Mike Holmgren. Now you got Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, so on and so forth. But look at the coaches that come off the trees. Think about that for a second. I know New England just hired forget his name. They just hired him. They used to play with the Patriots. But it just seems to me like it's just so small. And we thinking we're making progress. Now I always say this, and I'm always fond of saying something what the great brother Malcolm X once said. If you remove a knife from a man's back 2 inches, do you call that real progress? And that's kind of like what I kind of feel sometimes with the NFL. Not so much with the NBA. We know the NBA is spot on. They leading the way. You're talking about the administration part of it, because again, yes, they're making a lot of money and so forth, but these TV deals, but it's still not what the owners are making. We understand that part of it. So these coaches that's getting these opportunities, kind of like when Dion talked about, if I go here, whatever, however you want to look at that or view that, I'm just simply saying, get into these Power 5 schools or what have you. These African-American coaches that people don't know about, that they should know about, with great minds. You remember the defensive, he was a defensive back coach when we had, what was my guy name, man? He was the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys a few years ago. He was always on 10. He was always on 10.
One of the defensive line coach?
Huh?
The one that was he coached the defensive line, he was a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, he was a defensive coordinator, and he stopped calling the plays. He started letting the brother call but he was just a defensive back coach. But the guy was always on 10, and the guy that he was allowing to call the plays, I think he had come from Seattle also, but he used to be on 10 too, man, hitting the chalkboard. I gotta look it up. The defensive coordinator. If anybody know out there, man, check that out.
I know what defensive coordinator you're talking about. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, after they fired Mike Nolan, but he was before Mike Nolan.
He was with Red.
Huh?
He was with Red, right? Quarterback.
Jason Garrett. With Jason Garrett.
Yeah, he was with Jason Garrett, right?
Yeah, he's on the Jason Garrett.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's defensive coordinator with Jason Garrett. Yeah, he coached the defensive line and was defensive coordinator. I know the defensive back coach. I just can't think of his name either.
Yeah, but anyway, we know. I mean, but he had an African American defensive back coach that I thought that Jerry and them would look at him at the time, but they didn't elevate him either. And so here we are still in this cycle where, the brother, they'll put you as a running back coach, they'll put you as a defensive line coach. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to these coordinating positions that is going to elevate this coach to the next level of becoming a head coach, you don't give it to the brothers, man. You just don't. And the ones that do get it, it's kind of like they say, what is that? It's kind of like the one you keep cycling through is because you're familiar with him. So, it's like this thing where we know him. We call him, when I was playing ball, we call him buddy guys. Oh, he's a buddy guy. He shows his teeth too much. He's a buddy guy. You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna have any pushback. He's not gonna, cause any ripples. Like when Coach we were talking about Brian Dable. I mean Brian. What's the coach that filed the NFL the lawsuit?
Flores.
And he was going on. What was it?
Flores.
Flores. Yeah. He went on record. They was telling him like, "Hey man, lose this game." Same reason why Lovie Smith got exiled, telling him to lose these games. He said, "I'm here to win." You know what I mean? They don't want to have coaches of African American descent to challenge their authority, so to speak. And I'm not sitting here saying that it don't happen to certain white coaches or whatever the case may be. We just don't oftentimes hear about it. And when it comes out like the way it did with Lovie Smith, there's the media want to climb on that and they want to have they pundits and say this and say this and all this other kind of stuff, man. And they find any reason to push the guys or relegate them back to just becoming an assistant, the way Brian Flores was done. You know what I'm saying? So come on, man. It's just, I don't know. I had to bring that up because again, I think we gotta hold on for a second. We got a coach that's in our midst already that I think you should elevate and give him a chance if he wants the position. Al Harris. He came out and said if Dan Quinn leave, he'll follow Dan Quinn. But maybe that was just a ploy to get Jerry Jones to consider him to be the defensive coordinator. I don't know for sure. But again, we saw in Aaron Glenn what the possibilities of what could happen. Aaron Glenn did a heck of a job with the Detroit Lions, man. That's all I'm saying. So you got to give these brothers, an opportunity, man. You'll never know because you're giving dudes with Coach McDonald that just left the Ravens as a defensive coordinator, got the head coaching job for the Seattle Seahawks. You're giving them opportunity. Where did he come from? I ain't know nothing about him. Did y'all? I never heard anything about him. I don't even know what coaching carousel tree he's been on. So again, give these brothers an opportunity, man. The same way you get them. I started to say something.
Don't do it.
I started using one of them old words, them old folks use. Woo. You know what I'm saying? Before you give them an opportunity, man, because everybody, just give them an opportunity, man. That's it. Now, if he blow it, he blow it. Yeah, I was so happy they went and hired Antonio Pierce. Glad about that. But but we've been qualified. You still got 32 other teams. So again, man, I had to bring this subject matter up, man, because it just really it was warming my blood today, where as they was cycling through all these names on 105.3, and now one of them was African American that came up, man. I say, man, y'all just automatically just gonna jump over people. Y'all ain't said nothing about the possibility of Al Harris getting promoted. None of that. It was just this coach, that coach. And you talking about Mike Zimmerman? Come on, man. Mike Zimmerman ain't coached defense, man. I don't know how long. I mean, not to say he's forgotten anything, but I'm saying, come on. But anyway, man, I'm a transition for right now, but I had to put that out there because, man, that was bothering me all day long. So anyway, if y'all want anything else y'all want to say on that subject matter, man, feel free.
I have one question to ask. You guys all like Jimmy Johnson, his coaching, right? But you realize that he actually didn't have a African American really in his tree. I mean, he had Alexander, the receiver coach, but he didn't have a tree that had African American that moved from his tree. He didn't have nobody in significant position that he actually thought of in that way. Now, maybe if he had coached a little bit longer for a longer period of time, maybe they would have came up because some of his players might have moved to that position if he'd had a long career in coaching. I think he would have, but his tree doesn't have that, And
I agree.
Yeah. So it's funny, you know, how those things happen.
Now I was gonna say you would have liked to seen people like Hubbard Alexander, who was a wide receiver coach with him, who was African American, and Coach Michael Irvin, them become a head coach, perhaps. But I don't. When I used to see Hubbard Alexander, I didn't really see him as a head coach or even had aspirations to become a head coach. But who knows? But you know,
yeah, he didn't want to be a coordinator. So, man, yeah, he didn't want to be a coordinator. So I don't even think that was in his deal. That's why I'm saying that in his tree, he didn't have nobody of significance.
He was his wide receiver coach when he was down in Miami, and Jimmy Johnson brought him along from Miami with the Cowboys. So now I don't. But I'm saying, he had, who else did he have on his staff? That was
there was nobody who actually you consider a coordinator type of mindset he had on his staff. So you know, I played for Jimmy, so I'm looking at everything. I'm thinking about the staff and all that kind of stuff, and I was over there all the time. So there was nobody significant in his staff that actually to be hired. What I'm saying is that, you know, we think about some things. We're talking about trees and things to be developed. He had nobody developing that actually had that type of mindset. Now, what you would hope, because he moved all the fringe players a lot of times. When he was tied up, he moved. he changed who he was working. He changed his safeties. He changed everything. He kept moving them safeties, right? You know, from James Washington to, you know, he just kept moving his safeties, Ray Horton to James Washington, and so on and so on. So, and those are some of the guys who actually may have the mindset to actually do so a lot of times. It can be at other positions too, but those are some of the guys. So you would think maybe in his time that he would get some, you know, like even Ken Norton Jr. ended up being a defensive coordinator, right? That's one of his players. But, you know, if he had played long enough, some of his trees might have got that way.
Yeah, I think he applied for a head coaching job too at one time. I think he applied for the Seattle, maybe Raiders job, but he could have brought, you know, him back as a coordinator when he was doing a great job. But I think even before when they elevated Mike Dicker, Texas boy that played at Baylor, before he got the head coaching job. Because some people better than they are head coaches.
Mike Singletary.
I think Mike Dicker could have been someone that you could have brought as a defensive coordinator. So we know there's been names, man. I mean, throughout the years. So I just think that it is what it is, and until the same way when they raised the issue regarding Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith, Emmitt not getting his money, but then when Troy numbers came up, you paid him, you paid Tony Romo, blah blah blah. Yeah, they say, well, you know, he paid Dak, but no, hey man, come on, man. Come on. Dak, last time I checked, Dak mother was what now? Okay, thank you. So anyway, that's gonna conclude on that particular. Anyway, transition. Let's do this here, man. We're gonna switch real quick because we're running short on time, but we're gonna switch this over, man, to early up in the week we heard something about the NBA and the 65 rule. And before we talk about this, I'm gonna play a clip from Stephen A.
Brother, you know I love you. Check this out. What about Wilt Chamberlain? Remember the great Wilt Chamberlain, ladies and gentlemen? In 1962, Wilt played all but 8 possible minutes for the Warriors. He set single-season league records for minutes per game at 48 and a half, and minutes played 3,882 minutes. 48 and a half minutes. That is more minutes than is in an actual game. There's nobody that's doing that in this day and age. We understand. The level of parity exists. The game is harder. It's faster. It's more physical. There's more wear and tear in your bodies. We get all of that. This conversation is not about injuries. It's not about injuries. It's about people who were sitting down even though they were healthy enough to play because they wanted to preserve themselves and prevent themselves from getting injured while they were collecting a damn check.
So, DA, you know, we discussed it briefly on this NBA 65 rule. So talk to me, man. Tell me what you think and how you feel about it.
I agree with him. I watched him do the you know, his commentary on First Take. And I agree with him in principle. You know, the amount of games that's, you know, we can all look at the amount of games and say, well, that's too many or that's not enough for. So I sort of get it. And he made some valid points about guys just sitting out or coaches just saying I'm resting guys. And the point that hits home for me the most is, man, the prices for these seats, these tickets to park, concessions. When you pay all that money, you get tickets way in advance to go see certain players play, the marquee players play, and you show up to these games only to find out it's load management. Like what is load management?
Right.
Like you paying your hard-earned money to go see somebody play. If they're not injured, they should be playing. I don't understand what load management is. But then some of these same dudes, they play all summer. So how can you play all summer and you can't play during the entire season, which is how you pay your bills? And that ain't coming from me being pro owner, because I ain't never been pro owner. I'm always about everybody getting their bread. But then I think about the people who suffer is the fans, the ones who are not millionaires, the ones who
Agreed.
go to work all week, to buy a ticket and like, okay, we're going to this game. Because I know I picked out tickets for Dallas Mavericks. I wanted to see Zion. Every time I done ever went to see this dude, he done been in street clothes. So I was like, man, you know what? I don't know if this dude is really hurt or not, but I want to see him go out there and play. I don't care what's wrong with him. I want to see a dunk or something, man. Put me, you know what I'm saying? So I feel it. Like when you pay all the money to go see certain players, and then they just load manage it. So I understand it.
Yeah, what you think on Tim as far as the NBA 65 rule?
Well, we're coming from a different era where Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant both said these words, that I come because you never know when somebody's coming to the arena to see me play that never seen me play before.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do what you got. Kobe's over there with ice on both knees, ice on his shoulder, Jordan out there playing with the flu. All of them played with the flu, right? Both of them played with the flu, but Jordan got one in the playoffs. So sick as I don't know what, guys playing when they actually had broken fingers. Kobe got broken fingers. He got these on his fingers and all that kind of stuff. He's still playing. These guys now, they got broken fingers. They don't play. Shoot. They like, okay, I'm gonna rest it and all this kind of stuff. Man, he's shooting with his left hand. Kobe was shooting with his left hand. His right hand was hurt. He's shooting with his left hand. He worked hard enough and practiced long enough that he could shoot with his left hand. And so that's valid. And then also you're talking about the MVP. So you're talking about the 65 being that you got to play 65 games to actually be for the MVP and all the other standards that's going on for awards after the season. And guys need to do that because they need to step up and play enough games. They do have some caveats. If people had this injury, and something happened, you can be at 62 or something like that. So they got some room for things that actually make sense, right? So they put some rules in there, so it ain't so hard. If you just getting play like Joel Embiid right now, right? He was coming along looking like MVP and all that kind of stuff. Scores that big high score, right? Now he's hurt. His knee's out. So no, you're not gonna win the MVP. He gotta get his knee scoped, right? So no matter how well he played this season, he ain't playing enough. And he's not, enough to actually for that team to be winning the MVP. He's not the most valuable player because what do we say? The most valuable commodity for a player is being available.
Being available.
Yeah, best ability is availability, man. And I love it. I love the fact that they implemented something, man, that's gonna hold people accountable. Like they were talking about the what's the brother that play? I guess he played with Indianapolis.
Yeah, Halliburton.
Indiana. Thibodeau. What's his name?
Halliburton.
I can't remember. What's the name again, DA?
Halliburton.
Halliburton.
Yeah, Halliburton. Yeah, Halliburton.
Yes.
And I thought about it. I said, now here's an individual who, obviously, to me, you're not a student of the game. And that's what I love about the Jordans, the Kobe's, the LeBron James. Say what you want to say, and many others. These guys was students of the game. They respected the game, and they didn't cheat the game. Now you got this new these hip hop ball players, what I call them, coming in, moving furniture around in your house, and trying to cheat the game. And like Daryl was just saying, man, when you cheat, you cheat the game, you cheat the fans. It would be a plethora, man, thousands of young boys, man, that will love to be in the position that you're in, but they got to go play in the CBA league. And you take it for granted, like they treat it like a job. Like I get up and go to work. Now, this is my job. And to be compensated, man, to be compensated, I mean, fairly well. We all can agree. To not hold yourself accountable. Because I always say, man, at some point you got to play for the name on the back of your jersey. You know, you got to play for your team, but that name on the back of the jersey, you know how many people you're playing for? So for you to sit here, man, and take it for granted, oh, like I supposed to be here. Nah, why they gonna hold me to play? You know, talking about load management. What the heck was when I first heard this term, bro? I swear, I'm saying to myself, what is load management, man? You play 82 games, man. 82 games. That's it. For the type of money that we free wrecked had all our life, did we not, DA? I mean,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We free wreck, man, in the backyard all day, up outside goals all day, inside the gym all day.
I was just thinking that.
You know what I'm saying?
I was just thinking that, man. I was just thinking, man, I remember back in the day when I got hurt, I didn't even want to tell my coach. I'm like, nah, man, I might not be able to play if I tell this dude, my knee hurt. I'm like, I wanted to play. So I downgraded in injuries. And we didn't get paid. Like this was all because we loved the game. Like we would never, oh man, I hurt my elbow. Whatever was hurting, if you could get out there, you were gonna try to get out there. And that was just because we love basketball. If you love basketball, you're gonna play, especially if you're making millions and millions of bucks. I don't see how nobody would ever say, man, I don't want to play tonight, or rest me in case we make the. Nah, I'm playing. I want to play. I don't care if I'm hurting elbow, shoulder. If I ain't hurting the team, I want to get out there and see what I can do.
Yeah, it's just like I remember Isaiah Thomas saying, man, once he said, I just don't believe that I got paid for doing something that I would have done for free. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of guys, the throwback guys that you can look up, that you can look at and say, those guys understood. They understood where they were and knowing the circumstances that they come out of. Because a lot of these guys still, they're coming out of poverty, man, basically. But then you get to the league and then you get fat, as they say. Now you're full. Now you don't want to, put the work in. You don't do the little thing because you got the bag now. And so I'm so glad. I want to play the first because it was something he said on his show. This is
Amen. But it buffers even more. It's augmented even more by the great Irvin Magic Johnson, who tweeted out his response to those very comments I made on First Take this morning. This is what he wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. Quote, I was so happy to watch First Take this morning and hear my great friend Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog talking about the new NBA rule where players have to play in 65 games for at least 20 minutes to be eligible for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, the All-NBA teams, and the All-Defensive teams. Fans were upset after spending money to see their favorite players not play, so my friend, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, had to take action and implement this new rule. It's good for the league TV partners, ABC/ESPN, TNT, NBA TV, the local TV partners for all 30 teams, sponsors, the NBA, and last but not least, the fans.
So there you have it in a nutshell, because these guys, they want the accolades, they want the MVPs, they want the most improvement awards, all these awards, but you only played 45 games. They were saying, what player was it only played? I think, I don't know if it was Kawhi Leonard. I don't know. It was somebody that it may have been Kawhi Leonard. Only played like 65 games. They said Jordan played 82 games all season for 9 years. I think the top person was, McD. I don't know if you saw that. I can't remember who was number one. I think they had like 16, maybe Kareem. I'm not for sure. I got to go back and look at it. I know Jordan played like 9. And they had this, the list
played hard. Played hard on both ends.
On both ends, right? And imagine, bro, this is what I'm thinking. Imagine they don't even play as tough now as they did back then.
Yeah, now it's physical.
And yet 82 games, man. Are you kidding me? 82 games with the. I'm talking about with the physicality for which they played back then. You couldn't even come down the lane. They were telling the story about Artis Gilmore, uh, and he was telling one of the young players, "I told you, you can stay out there all day long, but if you come inside this paint, you get in the business." And they meant that, bro.
Yeah.
They meant that. And that's what they kind of need to bring back. We talked about that, man, not too long ago. These guys going out here scoring all these points and stuff like that. And they thinking that that's all it is to it. And that's the embarrassing part. So to see Adam Silver, man, and the NBA come up with this, along with their affiliates and their partners, man, I thought it was a wonderful thing. When you text me about it, DA, I wasn't really aware of what was the NBA rule on it. I looked it up. I was like, man, finally. That's what you need. Because, man, they cheating these fans, man. They cheating these fans. I guarantee you, man. If you give them a snooker, I bet you they go out there and play.
Right.
But check this out. Jabril. So remember, I stopped off at Kobe. Okay, who's the usher new stuff? Who's the beginning of low management? Because hey, maybe low management let you play 25 years. I don't even have to say the name, LeBron. Maybe allows you to play 25, 26 years, right? Because he's been low management to the maximum. One thing about him, at least he, plays, he gets a fair amount of numbers.
He only played 4, Tim.
Huh?
I think LeBron's only played four 82 game seasons.
I don't think he ever has. Not played every game.
Right. You could be right because I was reading something too. Because they was doing a comparison. I was doing a comparison between him and Jordan, and I was like, man, okay, well, I didn't know the dude hadn't played in many 82 game seasons like that.
No, I don't think he never has. If at the worst he's played 1, but I don't think so. I think it was 81 is the highest. So he actually ushered in. Then you got Kawhi Leonard, who for injury reasons been doing it, but still, those two of the stars you're talking about of the era that moved on, they're actually coming in and they don't play all the time. They rest. They take some time off. But the other side of this is looking at, hey, he rests, what maybe he wants to manage himself to 70 games. That seems like what's going on. See, LeBron is smooth with his. He don't go all the way down. He gets about 70 in, right? So you're still missing about 10 games, right? And he does that consistently. Somewhere around in the 70s, early 70s is where he usually ends up. He gets enough rest, and maybe that's what you do to play 25 years. But, he do some other stuff too, but we ain't getting into that.
Yeah, they don't, the LeBron James fans, they don't take those things into consideration. But again, we talk about load management and not playing a full 82 game season. Yeah, that helps. Man, along with this new NBA or how they play defense, all that stuff. Go ahead, DA.
My final thought on it, man. I'm thinking like you can't get hit anymore. Like you can play a whole season and not really even get a elbow to the ribs or some, what I mean? You can play and shoot threes the whole game. Right, you don't have to worry about anybody body slamming you when you go to the hoop. Like what is your load management about? Like nobody's even getting physical with you anymore. And I thought about it in a reference to my favorite. I was an adult. My favorite wrestler was The Undertaker. So I was like, you know what, man? I ain't never been to a wrestling match in my life, but if it's one dude I go see, it's The Undertaker. They coming to Reunion Arena. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna I'll take my little stepson, my niece, my nephew. I'm like, I need an excuse to go see The Undertaker, right? So I'm like, hey, y'all wanna go see wrestling? Yeah. So I'm going for me, but I need some kids with me. Get to Reunion Arena, sign on the door, man. Undertaker not wrestling tonight due to injury.
Oh no!
And I wanted to tell them kids, hey man, look, we finna go back. We go to Chuck E. Cheese or something, because I ain't fixing to go in this, pay my money in the under. I mean, I'm telling you, I was hurt. So then I started thinking, how is he hurt? Wrestling is fake. Like y'all ain't even really getting hit. What did you hurt? Did you strain a calf muscle or something riding your bike? Because you sure ain't got hurt wrestling. So I liken that to the NBA. Like y'all really fake playing basketball. How are you load managing and you ain't really playing basketball. You out there having a 3-point and dunk contest. So that's how I connected to. I relate to that. Like, man, y'all ain't really playing. So what are you resting from?
Just jumping and running. That's all. So they're getting hurt jumping and running.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, though, you know, like DA say, man, if you saved up your last penny, man, you've been saving all year because you want to enjoy a game with your son or your daughter, whatever the case may be, and then you look up and these jokers I just don't feel like it.
Don't feel like playing.
I just don't feel like playing. And believe me, that's some of the attitude. I've been around them. I know what. Look, I won't call no names, but I was with an NBA player once. And I'm not gonna, because we know him, so I gotta say it's not Spud, it wasn't Spud. But I was with another NBA player once, and I couldn't believe he was saying, "Man, I don't even feel like playing tonight." They was in town to play the Mavericks. He said, "I don't feel like playing tonight," and that was the first. This was back in the 90s, and that was the first time where it hit me, where I was thinking, like, I looked at him like, "Huh? You don't feel like playing tonight?" I thought every night y'all felt like playing, going out there getting them buckets. Now, he played in the game, but it was just the mere fact of him saying and mentioning that he didn't feel like playing tonight. I said, well, I know the body gets tired. You got so many road trips and back-to-back games and you know the fatigue. I know it happened, but again, man, when I think about you played this game, man, for free all your life. And now you're being really compensated. Man, that was the first time I promise you, the first time I heard any professional athlete say that. And it always stayed with me like, this dude actually said he didn't feel like playing tonight. So, you know.
How long was it before he retired, Jabril? How long was it before he retired? He retired after that year or the next year?
No.
He played a little bit longer than that?
He played a little bit longer than that. And I'm talking about, I mean, you didn't hear about him, you know, load managing, he played. I mean, he was out there on the court.
No.
Unless he was
I was thinking about his mental aspect too. You know, sometimes when guys start to have that feeling where they just tired of the game, I'm glad he rejuvenated himself mentally. A lot of them end up, you know, it's time for him to end the year. Yeah. But that's football too, though. Football, when you start feeling that way, you need to end because you get hurt. You know. But basketball a little bit different. So
the gridiron is nothing to play with. I've always said that people, you know,
you got to come in ready.
Understand it. Because this ain't it's totally different than baseball or football. I mean, basketball, what have you. Because man, you can seriously get hurt out there, man. And we've seen that. But but I was totally, you know, surprised, man. I had never heard that. I had never even thought that, you know, a professional athlete wouldn't feel like going out and performing. I get practices because, like in football, you know, we always say that this is the only game where you practice more than you play. Think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. Football is the only game where you practice more than you play. Now, if you know, because we want to get to the Friday night lights, we want to get to the Saturdays, we want to get to the Sundays. You know, if you can fast forward that and let us go shorts and, you know, shoulder pads, and let us get some walkthroughs and go play the game, guys would love that. But in basketball, when this was said, I'm like, man, all y'all doing is put on a jersey, a pair of shorts. You know, y'all ain't got to put on all this equipment like we, you know, in football. And y'all just finna go, ooh. It just blew me away, man. It just blew me away.
AI would be totally, Allen Iverson would be totally like,
talking about practice.
We ain't talking about practice.
We ain't talking about a game.
You talk, man, let's go play the game. Get practice. Let's go play.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about in basketball. Yeah. You're actually playing the game. Like it's not, you might get you might have a walkthrough or a shoot around, something like that or whatever prior to, but I'm saying you're getting ready to go play the game. So again, I didn't see the complaint. I said it's not to me, wasn't a legitimate complaint. I mean, I just couldn't accept it. I said, especially with the money that you're making. So again, man, I mean, kudos to the NBA for coming up with this idea of playing at least 65 games. If they got a little cushion in there, maybe 61, 62, fine, for the right reasons. But something needs to be done, man, because you never heard of this in the 70s and 80s and 90s, low management, early 2000s even. So this is a new phenomenon. I'm glad to see the NBA, man, and Commissioner Adam Silver step in and do something about it. So, guys, we're coming up on the last couple of minutes here, and we want to segue to something real quick that's very dear to all of our hearts. I know we talk about African American History Month. Today was the first day of African American History Month, and I don't let it be forgotten. I don't let it be forgotten. You know, they had this discussion. I heard it on radio shows years ago. I've heard it, Morgan Freeman trying to speak as if he's speaking for all African Americans. I'm saying to myself, dude, who are you, man? Go get your hand rifle after having that wreck with that girl you was messing with. Don't come speaking on like you speaking for all African American people. When the Jews don't have a problem with the Holocaust. See, the only thing they have, they bring up is anti-Semitism, and when you speaking about them, they gonna let you know about their history, and they gonna be proud to talk about the Jewish Holocaust. Well, I always say then, you know what? We should be proud to talk about the African Holocaust. We should not forget, because again, with our children who are coming up today, the young people, they don't know the history if we don't give it to them, and that's how we paid it forward through traditions and customs and even rituals to an extent. But we paid it forward, so I'm unapologetic for that. I'm not. Again, speaking about Morgan Freeman, I heard his take on this. He was like, African American history, and this is actually came out this man's mouth. He said African American History Month is one of the dumbest, craziest thing they came up with. I was like, dude, are you serious? It's not. When you've been stripped of your name, religion, your identity, and you have assimilated with other individuals, you don't know who you are because you still suffer from identity crisis. And I wrote about it in another book of mine. I hopefully have published this year. I talked about that the African American people are the only group of people who have financed their own oppression and who have evolved 5 times over. No other race have done that. We went from nigger to Negro to Afro to Black to Afro-American to African American. So we have evolved 5 times over. No other ethnic group has done that. And you think we don't suffer from our identity problem? Yes, we do. That's why you see the young girls out there doing what they do, because they don't have nothing to emulate. They have no examples to look at. Big Mama is all gone now. So yes, when this month roll around, I think we should have a conversation. I think we should be have a united front, as they say. I think we should be more focused on our ideologies and not everybody else's. Because the Hispanic community is not. They got LULAC supporting them. Now, I don't know what the NAACP is really have done in over 100 years now, or at least the last 40 years or so. But the point I'm simply making is that I think February can be, you can learn the history, but it can be so much more. Don't get me wrong, we should make certain adjustments, and we should be able to elevate our thinking. But these are great opportunities to have symposiums and round table talks and stuff like that. Whether you're going to talk about business, finance, or whatever, what brings us closer together as opposed to what brings us further apart. Talking about the culture. You hear this name, you hear this thrown around so much, the culture. Yeah, it sounds good. And that's cool. That's a cool word to throw around. But when you start talking about culture, when it's demising our young people with a bunch of foolishness and it's going unchecked, then we have to modify our behavior. So we have to have this month to look back on how far we've come and still stand on the shoulders of great men and women. It should not be forgotten. So I'm not going to let it just die down because you don't got all cushy. You don't feel like there's nothing else to fight for. Well, we got to fight every single day, man. That ain't over with. But I'll come to you on that first, TJ. What you got?
Well, I'm thinking about Morgan Freeman and what he said. My heart goes out to a man who actually is trying to see things universally and see things one way. But what he's missed is this. It's only 1 month. It would be great if it was, every day, all year long. But this is called a focus opportunity. Opportunity for us to focus about our ancestors. So our ancestors who actually we get a chance to see and talk about, who our young people don't know. So we get a chance to learn about ancestors, what they did, what's gone on before them, so we can know what we're able to accomplish even more. And sometimes the stories tell you what odds, against all odds, they accomplished these things when everybody was against them, how hard it was, right? So to let you know, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how tough it may be at any moment, if you can stand up, stand straight, and go forward through no matter what it is. And that we smart enough, we're intelligent enough, we wise enough, we got people behind us who will help us, that we can gather together as a unit. We can accomplish anything we put our mind together, especially when we come together like this. So I'm sorry that he missed that opportunity, that he get lost in everything being great and being universal, which is wonderful. That's what we want. But those are not always the times for everybody in every moment in every hood, every community. Every community ain't built that way. So we have to remind some don't have the opportunity to have the education that they need. We got to remind those so actually they can get this stuff so they don't have it in their home. So that's why you got to have it in schools as well too. We can't let them take it out of schools because sometimes the parents don't have that knowledge. So sometimes the kid got to learn more in school than he does at home. So when you bless like us, we give our kids knowledge, right? But everybody don't have the opportunity to give that knowledge, all that information to their children. So we got to have it in every place we can get. And we need this month so they can learn. Matter of fact, some of the time kids are teaching the parents.
Right.
So we got to have this.
DA?
Yeah, when I heard him make that statement, I assumed he was meaning it should be every month. Like I was like, is he meaning we shouldn't have it because it just should be every month? Like I'm still not sure of what his intentions were by making that statement. But for me, I usually take off this month because I'm sharing knowledge all year. And I usually, when February comes around, I'm like, okay, let me see what y'all got. What are y'all sharing? I'll just, you know what I'm saying? I'll take in what everybody else is sharing it because it's African American History Month. But for me, every other month, I would put out a post in July and say, since it's Black History Month, da 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 da, or in April, since it's Black History Month. And then you have people coming up and say, well, no, it's not. I'm like, every month is our month. So no, it ain't just no February. So when February comes around, I tell you, I usually just, okay, what y'all got? You know, what y'all want to talk about? Cotton gin or open heart surgery or whatever. So this is the month where I kind of chill because I'm teaching it all year round. I'm putting out, hey man, this little culture stuff ain't working for us. This street stuff ain't working for us. We bigger than this. You know, this ain't us. All this trap music and rap music, that ain't us. Where y'all getting this from? Why are we allowing this? That's not what our people are thinkers. Our people are inventors. Like who's inventing something? I don't want to hear nothing about your son in the studio. Okay, that's fine. But we need some plumbers. We need some inventors. We need construction workers, construction crews. We need landscaping companies. We need carpenters. Black people are creators, but we are doing less and less creating. So I'm spreading that type of it's cool what we did in the past, and we need to know that. But let's get back to it. Like, how many of y'all like, you know, I got some inventions. I'm like trying to, man. We created a whole bunch of stuff back in the day. Like, why did we stop? What stopped y'all? Social media? What is it now that making y'all not want to create, invent, like use your brain? It's like everything is like gossip, debate, social media. Look at me. Hey, I'm here. Oh, I'm eating this. Man, that's just empty. All that's empty calories, verbal diarrhea all over social media. When are we going to go back to what our real culture is? And that's building, working together, supporting each other, the village raising the child. At what point do we get back to that? Or are we just too far gone and we just going to slide off the cliff? So it's my
Yeah,
take.
well, D, I'll tell you this. Because this is it's incumbent upon me to always be reminded, you know, when we say that stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So it's one of those deals where it's a constant cycle, 12 months out of the year. I have to discharge my duty where I can't take a day off for a month or a week or whatever the case may be. And I get what you're saying on that aspect. And having said, and I don't want to confuse the situation when I'm talking about, yes, we can remember our past, but we cannot forget our future. And we have to be able to bring the past into the future by remembering, like you're talking about. Remember how we did things, how more unified we was, how we really used our mind and made something out of nothing. We was very creative because we had to be. You remember how now, like I tell, you see these, you can go down the street and you might run into a kid, he got his basketball goal up. And I was like, man, well, hell, we made the basketball goal. We took a rim, man, and got some nails and tied it up. You know what I'm saying? And nailed that thing up there, man, on the pole, and went and thought nothing else about it. You know what I'm saying? You talking about you want to go get a scooter, man? What you talking about, man? We built our gold car. What you talking about? Some nails. You see what I'm saying? So to your point, DA, absolutely, man. We was very creative, man. And we used our creative thinking, our creative minds. And those are the fundamental facts that we need to get back to. So I definitely, man, concur exactly what you said. But it's months like this that we have to remind ourselves, being in the middle of this race, that because the one that's, like my mom, my mother, and so forth and so on, and the people that help pave the way doing those marches and what have you. Now we're in the middle of the pack, and it's kind of like, okay, like you said earlier, Tim, these young people, they don't know a lot of these history makers, if you will. So it's incumbent upon us and our duty to ensure that we're getting the proper information, the correct information, the right foundation to these young people. Because why? When you look at the school system, man, they're not helping. In fact, the school system really reminds you of a prison institution, the way it's set up. You know what I'm saying? It's really, that's why a lot of people took their children and started homeschooling them, because the way they got it designed, they say, why these schools ain't sitting on something where the backdrop, you might see the ocean waters or something, or some type of other aesthetic, but you get a bell ringing and you moving from class to class. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not really trying to teach you or give you, and it's been like that since the John D. Rockefeller back in 1908 with the General Education Board. He said, I'm trying to create industrial people, not thinkers, industrial people. But I think we've traveled and come a long ways. And that's the reason why I say conversations like this in this time of year, and like I say, we do it other months throughout the year, but this is one of those months I feel like, kind of like in the fasting month for us, we got Ramadan. Yes, we got all the other months, right? But this 1 month is a special month because it's going to test your will, it's going to test your faith. When you go through 30 days, not a water fast, not I'm gonna drink a little water or drink a little, no. Ain't the way it's done. You're gonna have 30 days of this burning sensation in your stomach, and you getting a lot of rewards, a lot of blessings out of it, right? But this is a special month, 30 days. So that's how I look at them. And they give us the shortest month in February, right? So this is the month where if you want to go back down memory lane, they say those who understand their path would not repeat it. So you can get to your future. Then this is the month to put all else. You got to go into the cave of your own mind, your intellectual thinking. You got to go into the cave of your mind and block all this other stuff out and get to know you again. You got to vet you and see where you are, see where you're trying to go in life, and leave off what I call the noise pollution. That's exactly what it is. A lot of times, be the noise pollution. Everybody got something to say, but there's no real substance behind what it is they're saying. This is an opportunity, man, to really understand the plight of African American people and how far we've come, and definitely where we're trying to go to change this around. But you finna say what, Tim?
I was thinking about something that DA had said earlier about where our creative people are, and I was thinking about this one guy. If I did this and I was thinking about it earlier, I would have got his name for us. But he actually, he's actually using the atmosphere to create water. And so he's doing that right now. Right now, he's contracted because he was doing this thing, and everybody was talking about, hey, you got to save this dude because he was saying, hey, we got water. You got to worry about water. You ain't got to short it. Yes.
Saw that.
So he got these tanks that he's created where he's pulling water out of the atmosphere because he said, hey, we got endless amount. So he's pulling the water out the atmosphere and putting it in tanks, and it's the most purest water you can have, right? So what they did, though, our government got to him, and he's actually doing it for the army, right? So that's why he's surviving, because everybody's wondering, because every time we build something that's unique, all of a sudden we disappear.
Yeah.
So my deal is that, there's places where actually they don't have any water. In this world, why are we not making sure we provide that when a guy got a machine that actually can do it? And all you got to do is build it up. It's just so sad, some of the things that we deal with on this world, which is all about capitalism and money instead of about looking after each other and caring about each other. I mean, it's such a sad situation. And that's what we're dealing with, man. The commerce. We was commerce. See, that's what people don't know. We were commerce. Chattel means we were chattel because we could actually make money. We were property. So we were property. We come from property, all about commerce. To keep us down, commerce. Why they want us to work, why he wanted the school system for us to work, because we are commerce. They want us all about the dollar bill and keep us as commerce. And we got to understand that, hey, we don't need to be commerce no more. We need to unify. And we can use commerce to actually build ourselves bigger. We use commerce, but we're not commerce. And we so caught on that because they know we spend more money than anybody else in the entire world, our community, on goods, right? And we're not building them and we're not manufacturing them. We got to do that. We got to manufacture. We got to distribute. We got to build systems. We got to put that together. I know they burnt them down. That's what the history is about. We can't do it like we did before. The history about knowing that, hey, you can't do it the same way because they'll burn you down. They'll do it intellectually now. So we got to build up better systems.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, that's gonna conclude, this show. We were supposed to jump on here for 1 hour. That was it, 1 hour. But we have some great conversations.
That's close. That's pretty close.
We had to talk about African American History Month. And so again, I want to thank everybody that joined us this evening, man, and for coming on, man. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. We just want to come on. Normally we on Mondays and we upload on Tuesdays. So again, this is a special night that we came on Thursday. We want to talk about the recap and what we talked about this evening. We talked about the Cowboys. Is the organization a racist organization, or are they just non-equal opportunity employers in terms of hiring coordinators and defensive coordinators? And also we talked about the NBA 65 rule. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And of course, last but not least, we discussed the African American History Month, which we will not forget the African Holy Cross. I'm not going to let it die down, and I'll be speaking about it until God calls my soul back. So to my brothers, Daryl D.A. Alexander, and to Tim Action Jackson, thank you, brothers, for coming on, man. I would say we'll give a quick shout out, but we'll do it on Monday because we still got to talk, pick this thing, the Super Bowl thing coming up. And D, I'm glad. I don't think that's in the 49. Oh, yeah, you do got 49ers gear on, man. I just can't. I mean, boy, I'm gonna tell you something. I'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm waiting on you too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk about that. I'm just gonna talk about that next week, man. So again, I want to thank everybody for coming on again, and don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, and share button. And this has been the replay that we try to make your day. Y'all have a good evening. Be blessed, and always.
Peace, love, and serenity to you all.